Do you think that even though millennials love Shrek, that our exhaustion with recycled Hollywood tropes are finally starting to override our love of nostalgic pop culture?
Hey, and welcome to Trash Pickins, where we review the most cringe-worthy, over-the-top, downright trashy media in internet culture. Today, we're going to be thinking about the upcoming Shrek movie that's not released yet, but there's a lot of anticipation online for what the storyline might be. A lot of folks have rather jaded perspectives about what Hollywood might be churning out as Shrek 5, and so today we're going to dive in.
Today's analysis, the internet reacts to Shrek 5.
So Shrek 5 is going to be released in 2026. And recently, Dreamworks actually released a teaser, not a trailer, but a teaser of the upcoming Shrek. And this teaser was about 15 seconds long. It didn't really say anything about the plot, and it just kind of featured the characters and the actors that are going to be in the film. As expected, Shrek is going to be in it, Fiona, his wife, is going to be in it, Donkey's going to be in it, and then they also teased that their daughter, who is now a teenager, Felicia, is going to be in it as well. Once again, nothing about the plot was shared in this teaser, and we just saw what the characters are going to look like. Based on this, people are guessing that Shrek 5 is actually going to maybe feature her as the main character, and the plot is going to be surrounding the rebellious teenage trope. So before we actually jump into analyzing, let me just share a few of these videos in case you haven't seen them and to give you context of what we're actually talking about.
Go for it.
So a lot of the sentiment in folks who have been taking to social media and predicting what Shrek is going to be about have kind of in a nutshell claimed that Felicia, their daughter, is now a grown teenager and wants to leave the swamp where Shrek has raised her, and the overprotective parent Shrek won't let her go.
But Dad, staying in the swamp is your dream. I have different dreams. I want to explore the world. Dad, I'm not your little girl anymore. I want to go to human school and maybe date a human too. Mom, you have no idea what it's like to spend your entire youth locked up. Just because Mom was locked up doesn't mean I have to be too.
The world is dangerous, Felicia. Why would you ever want to leave the swamp? We have everything here.
Dad, I'm not your little girl anymore, and I refuse to be locked away like Mom.
I said no. You're never leaving the swamp. Now you're grounded. Go to your room.
Shrek, you were too hard on her. I know how it feels to be locked away.
So just to give a little bit of context of what the rebellious teenager trope is.
The rebellious teenage archetype is a classic teenage stereotype that has been around since the dawn of time. Teenage characters are just trying to find themselves in the world, which often leads them to act out or being insubordinate towards their parents, teachers, and adult figures. Eventually, the teen learns that it's best to listen to authority figures, and while it's okay to let loose every now and then, one must not act recklessly. In other works, it's the parents or adults who learn that it's fine to ease up on the reins and let their kids have fun and express themselves. Oftentimes, it's revealed that the authority figures themselves were once former teen rebels.
So what did you guys think about these few reels that I shared with you? Do you think that they've hit it on the nose? Are they good predictions?
I think it's probably going to be pretty accurate. I think that trope will be part of the movie for sure. I am hoping that they subvert the trope a little bit to make it more interesting, kind of like they started doing in the earlier movies, where it was like, oh, you know, he goes to rescue the princess, and it's going to be this kind of classic fairy tale ending, and then it's got all these twists and things. So it was very self-aware, and it kind of made fun of the tropes. I feel like they got away from that in the later movies. I don't remember them being as, like, counter-trope. They just kind of leaned into the tropes. So I am a little worried that after 15 years, they may have lost their edge. I hope they go back to being subversive with it, but I don't know. Not as optimistic as I'd like.
First of all, I've never seen a Shrek movie, so I am only going based upon what I've seen in other remakes or subsequent films after the success of the first 1, 2, 3, 4 in this case with Shrek. But I think it's an entirely plausible trope that they're using. I mean, they've introduced a character. It seems like it's the only viable storyline, unless something crazy happens where they as a family have to like rise to some challenge and overcome something together as a team. But that's less common as a trope for sure.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I will say, I know you haven't seen Shrek, Lisa, though, but Shrek is historically known as one that actually had like almost better sequels than the first one.
It's actually true. The first movie did a little bit under $500 million, and the second one came out just under $1 billion globally.
I see. Yeah, and to go back to your question about, is media literacy more common these days? And I would say at some level, yes. And I think it's mainly because people are constantly online. And so they're under a constant barrage of everything on social media, streaming platforms. And so you get to see these narratives like all the time, back to back. And writers are so formulaic about them that you just see the same thing over and over and over again. So it's like you can't help but observe that we're being taken advantage of at some level and being fed the same stupid narratives time and again.
Yeah, well, that was one of my questions, actually. I said, do you think that mass public criticism will change the way future movies are released? Like, do you think they'll hear our frustration and actually change it, or are they going to just keep forcing the same crap down our throats? Because, you know, for example, the Sonic movie, when they released the trailer originally, people were like, wow, Sonic is so creepy and uncanny, and they actually did go back and reanimate. So that's a good example.
I think that's a multi-part question. Do I think that the criticism of the media will influence the media? I think it always has. They've always done pre-screenings where you can go see the movie before it's released. It's not fully complete, but you can give them feedback. If they get it often enough, then they'll change things if they can. If it's minor, they can do reshoots or whatever. So I think that exists, and I think it's becoming, as we see more and more movies that are getting panned before they even come out, and then they end up being these massive bombs. I think they're starting to listen a little bit more. It really probably depends on the studio. It depends on what needs to be changed. Redoing Sonic because he was creepy AF, that had to happen, or that whole thing was just not going to work. It was a nightmare, right? Are they going to produce better movies? I don't know. I don't think so.
Hollywood would have us believe that if you dislike Hollywood, you're somehow on the fringe, but I guess it's feeling a little less like that, at least on the internet.
I will say that I'm like thrilled at the level of awareness that people have and that they're putting online for others to see. It's like so refreshing and exciting that they're trolling the companies, and they're very self-aware and they're jaded, where it's like, we're not stupid. You have to stop trying to sell us crap, which is great. It has sort of a post-capitalist feel in a sense too, where everybody's just like, this is stupid. Like everybody's just trying to make money off of us every turn we make, including in entertainment.
Well, that leads perfectly into my other question. Like, all millennials are obsessed with Shrek for some reason. And I asked, do you think that we're finally growing exhausted with recycled Hollywood tropes? And is that exhaustion starting to overshadow our love for pop culture nostalgia?
That's a great question. I do think that, people are pretty jaded. They understand that they're just ripping off the same intellectual property over and over again. I mean, I'd be curious to do a little research and see if there's any polling done on this, but do people want new stories for our time? Like, why is it that sort of the quote golden age of storytelling happened decades ago across the board, and now everybody just needs to remake it and reiterate on it? It really has that sort of like vapid capitalist feel that nobody wants to sort of invest in a new story and a new character for our time. It's more, let's get stuck in nostalgia again and again and again, which is weird. It has a draw for sure. And I guess the question is nostalgia always going to override a desire for something new? I don't know. It could be very context and cultural specific too.
At least in the 90s and early 2000s, and even before that, right? We're just talking about first animated Snow White. It kind of feels like that these like staples or timeless pieces that started these franchises that are now rebooted over and over again were also paired with new technology was available. Like Snow White starting as like the ability to do, color and cell shading and all that sort of stuff was like, fairly new to have a production of that size, highly animated, And then even like in the 90s when we could do CGI, Pixar has the Toy Story characters, which are now staples, and they're still making Toy Story ones. And it kind of feels like that. I'm not sure why now, like when CGI has gotten so much better, there's no new anything. It's only being used to reboot, I don't know if AI will suddenly spark a wave of AI original characters, maybe, who knows? It's ironic because it's AI, right? But
I think there's always going to be that appeal for nostalgia and that temptation for these companies to make movies that appeal to that because it comes with an audience, right? Like you don't need to worry that nobody's going to show up. Even if it's a terrible movie, you're going to get some people to show up. All the franchises get rebooted. All of them get new sequels, new trilogies. They get flip the genders on the characters and try that. It's really annoying, honestly. Like I like progressive stories. I like things that continue and build on each other. So I'm okay with having another movie in the same franchise, right? I hate when we start over again. why am I going to bother getting invested in your freaking characters if you're just going to potentially reboot them again in 5 years? You know, it's like, I don't want to waste my time.
I think we have to remember that first and foremost, all of these big production companies are businesses first. And while they're full of amazing, talented artists, they need to sort of ensure their bottom line. And so they're always going to be going back to the types of stories. I'm sure they have a lot of data on this, the types of stories, the types of characters, the things that have been successful, the franchises that work regardless of how crappy a narrative may or may not be. And I think that they're maybe not so willing to play around with that if they know it's a solid business decision. So even if people and critics are thinking it's stupid, if it goes, and I'm not saying that it will, we'll see, but even if it doesn't perform well, people are still going to bring their kids, they're still going to go for the nostalgia factor, and that is sort of a slam dunk for the company, and that's what they're going to do. So it's kind of an interesting balance, like how much do they want to push the artistic envelope and try something new and allow their animators and storytellers to actually go in a different direction versus sort of pumping out the same old to just continue to get money from us in a formulaic but successful way.
It feels to me now, at least when I see what they're producing, that they're trying to maintain what they own in their stature and whatever corner of the market, which is probably most of it. They're just trying to keep it, whereas we were looking at the Snow White and it said on the poster, his first feature-length film or whatever. That was at the top of the poster when it said his, and it's referring to Walt Disney. And I was like, wow, they would never write that now. They would never refer to the director just by their pronoun. You'd have to have their name in giant letters to pull in the audience. And it was very much about Walt Disney as an auteur. You know what I mean? He's trying something new. It's a first time. It's different. And I think Frank is right, is that I don't know if it's they don't value that as much, or they just don't care about it in terms of making money. Frozen, they did it with Frozen, right? That was brand new and it was really well received and made them a lot of money. So they know they can do it. I just don't know why they choose to do it less.
It's risky too. It's a risky thing to pour $100-200 million into a budget of a movie that you don't know how it's going to do, right? Whereas if you pick a pre-existing thing, you have characters to build on, they're already there, it has a fan base, and that temptation is just too hard to resist. If you own the rights to that property, you have to milk it for everything it's worth.
But then it's becomes a capitalist exercise. And I feel like I've used the word capitalist way too many times in this video, but it's what is the risk, right? A lot of these companies are trying to expand and they're moving into either theme parks or streaming platforms or merchandise or partnerships, or, they're becoming bigger with they're growing. And so there's the need to push growth. And then because of that, you can't take these artistic risks. So again, it's business versus art, and it's just sad, And this is all just armchair philosophizing, theorizing too. We don't have any numbers, like Sarah said, to back this up, but just our impressions, We at Trash Pickins are actually thrilled that the internet is now diving into some media critique. They have a lot of media literacy and they know what to expect when it comes to tropes. So, I'm excited to keep watching these to see what other creative ideas the internet comes up with next to troll Hollywood writers. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.